It has made me question that a little bit.
Hmm.
However, I also, the price of Bitcoin is not going to go over $150,000. It could potentially, maybe spike to 170 or 180 or who knows. But the range, the 140 is the target. $140,000 is the target. And, when you look at where Bitcoin fell to, now all of a sudden that target is what? That's a 3x. That's a 3x from the bottom now.
This content is brought to you by VeChain, which is a leading enterprise-grade Layer 1 public blockchain spearheading a digital revolution from a sustainable, highly scalable smart contract platform. The VeChain blockchain has many unique features, which makes it an ideal choice for Web3 applications. VeChain is working with many great enterprises such as PwC, Givenchy, BMW, and Walmart China. Most recently, they partnered with the Boston Consulting Group to build a revolutionary decentralized application ecosystem. I'm a big believer in this project. I have been since 2018. I've been a VET token holder for years. And this blockchain is highly scalable, great with security and speed, and it has low energy consumption. If you'd like to learn more about VeChain, please visit vchain.org. Link will be in the description. Welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast. I'm your host, Tony Edward, and with me is someone who doesn't need an introduction, but it's Ben Armstrong, aka BitBoy. Ben, great to see you.
Well, thanks for having me. You came on my show a couple of months ago. Glad to come back on your show. Haven't been on in quite a while. I know you get a lot of big guests on, and so I see some of your interviews, and you do a great job. And I know you're part of the XRP army, which is a good thing. I'm sure we're going to talk about today. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Big news, and really great to have you on, man, to get your perspective on the markets, because you've been here a long time, Ben. You've been investing, you built your channel, their brand, and so forth. But let's start with your most recent book that you just launched. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's called Catching Up to FTX, Lessons Learned During My Crusade Against Fraud, Corruption, and Bad Hair. Obviously, Sam Bankman-Fried was the character with the bad hair in the story. And it details... It sets up why the FTX story is so important. It sets up kind of the early beliefs about crypto and then watching things evolve to where it got, and how FTX was kind of it was the thing that we were always going to be led to in crypto with greed and selfishness. Was going to be an exchange that was going to have so much money that it was going to get over leveraged like this. And when it started to fall, it's the same old crime family story. It's the same, the same old exchange story. It's just they're always going to be trying to steal from people. And it's not just crypto. It's been going on since the beginning of the world, really. And we show how that is not what we want. We need a different system. We want to change. In crypto, we thought it was a different system, but FTX is the same old thing. And so we set that up. And then we go into the fun, exciting part, which was me actually going down to the Bahamas and chasing Sam Bankman-Fried around trying to find out where he was. We were, of course, in his complex. His parents called the police on us, interactions with them, talk about how we actually got inside and what that was like. We talk about left, why I actually did decide to not just get arrested, because I as people know, I am a master loiterer. I'm not afraid to get arrested for something I believe in. And I think that it's a really cool story of the insides of what happened, how I met Ice Bags, and we had this crazy poker game, and Sam Bankman-Fried texted me at 2 a.m. and told me that he was a wimp. He didn't like spicy pizza. That's one thing he told me. And then he actually asked me, the most interesting interaction I've ever had with Sam was when he asked me, he said, "Hey, if you were me right now and you were the CEO of FTX, what would you do?" I was like, "Whoa, what a question." And I said, "Look," I said, "that's not up to me. It's not up to you. You're no longer the CEO of FTX. You'd already been removed." And I said, "What you need to do is own up to what you did and find a way to make peace with all the people that you hurt." And, we had a few interactions. And then later on, another really interesting interaction we had through text message was when he had kind of stopped talking to me. He said we would do an interview on Twitter, and then he never did it. And then we didn't talk for a while, but I kept sending him messages. And I kept sending him messages saying, "Hey, Sam, I know it's your parents. I know your parents are actually behind this." I figured out since then At first I was going back and forth on whether it was Sam or whether it was his parents. Sam or his parents. Like, is Sam bad? Is he a scapegoat? Is he what is he? And what I came to realize is they're both parties, the parents and Dan Friedberg as well, the attorney, and Sam Bankman-Fried. They're all equally responsible for this because Sam Bankman-Fried was in charge of all the trading. He was in charge of the trading, the leveraging, the getting over leveraged, the lying about numbers. That's what he did. The parents were involved on the political conspiracy side, where it was funneling money to candidates. Why were they doing it? To buy power. Of course, they know Sam eventually wanted to be the president himself. Imagine that. And then you, of course, have Dan Friedberg, who was the one who set up the shell companies and the architecture. And I think they're all kind of equally guilty.
And they were trying to get that special broker-dealer license on the SEC, right? I think that a lot of people in the industry were like, wait a minute, that will make them kind of a monopoly, and they would, push out the other exchanges.
Well, they already had bought LedgerX, which was a derivative. It was the only, at the time, I believe it was the only SEC-approved derivatives platform that had anything to do with crypto. Nobody had ever even heard of it. And I don't even know if it had launched, people were using it yet. But FTX bought it. And that was actually my reason back around Thanksgiving of 2021 for saying that I thought that, Thorchain and FTT were going to be awesome. We bought, at the time, $500,000 worth of both tokens because I thought FTT was going to crush it because I thought finally they were going to give it utility with leverage trading on this derivatives platform. So the FTX already had some of the infrastructure in place to really go once they had that license and absolutely run a monopoly. You're correct, and they were dead on.
Well, I'm really looking forward to reading the book because obviously you have some interesting nuggets and insights. I mean, the fact that Sam was texting you at some point, that's pretty amazing. And then, of course, you were down in the Bahamas. But I think it's important for people to understand this story, and because there's so many layers to it. One, it's not the ethos of crypto, right? The true meaning behind crypto. And then two, it just shows like people trying to come in and take over. And of course, thank goodness it got stopped because Sam was cooking up some stuff with the SEC, Gary, and much more.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. There was a rogue group. This is the best way for me to say it. A lot of people look back in 2021 when I talked about Bitcoin hitting $100,000 and when I talked about the Ripple settlement being done in September of 2021. I cannot be any more clear. I was told, and I believe this is a person who I guess I'll call them on the good side. So I think it's someone who I can trust. I was told by someone that was on a yacht with Brad Garlinghouse during the Bitcoin 2023 or 2022. It was during Bitcoin 2022. And Brad Garlinghouse told this person directly and a few other people who are standing in a very small circle that they rejected a settlement offer from the SEC in the fall of 2021. Was it September? I do not know. Now, is this 100% confirmed? I think if you go read through the leads from some stuff Brad Garlinghouse has said, I think there is a lot of smoke there. People would probably, they've never came out and just absolutely said it. But I think a lot of people know that probably is true. And the $100,000 number, there was a rogue group that included FTX, included Sam Bankman-Fried, that were working against kind of the any of the overarching world narratives. So there was a rogue group, and it doesn't take that many people to absolutely wreck the market because there was a time back in, I think it was 2020 or 2021, or maybe it was 2019, where there was a study that was done that showed that $1 million could actually move the market cap of Bitcoin $100 million when leveraged correctly. Because a lot of the market cap is on leverage. It's not actual dollar to dollar. It's not all spot that's included in on the market cap. And I wish somebody would do a breakdown of that one day. I tried to do research on it. It's really hard to actually find information on how that works. But the point is this rogue group was shorting things. Like if you looked at the shorting versus longing on FTX, it was like 80 to 20. But you can't find that information anymore because they destroyed all the API when that hack was done. That was done to remove information. And so you can't look this stuff up anymore. If you didn't have screenshots of it, you can't get it. And so these people were shorting the market unmercifully. And I think that's what stopped the market. I think that's what led things to top out and go back down. And that group included Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler, I've only been given basically a few names that were involved in this group for sure. Definitely Sam Bankman-Fried and his parents. Definitely Dan Friedberg. Definitely, definitely. Who was I just talking about? Lost my train of thought. Who were we just? Gary Gensler. Definitely Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler was definitely also involved in that. And I think there's a lot of banking connections. There's going to be connections everywhere. And I think the question is what rogue group was responsible for the possible assassination of Donald Trump? Like, was it fringe members of the same group that were wanting to continue to stop the way that things are progressing? Because you have to understand that when you have two large markets, okay. Let's take, for instance, the the airline market, and let's take the internet market. I guess a good way to say it. When you take those two different markets and you combine them, so now you can buy plane tickets and advertise online. That's great. You've done a good thing. You've allowed a lot of people to kind of jump in and be part of something. But sometimes when things get combined, you're not pulling from kind of separate areas to where you're going to get more money and more traffic, right? Let's say you're a bank, and let's say you're a medium-sized bank. Now, medium-sized banks don't ever grow to large-sized banks because they get bought out, and most of them end up failing eventually or stay medium-sized. It's kind of a purgatory, if you will, for banks. And so let's say that you had a bank that was, let's just call it, Tony Edwards Valley Bank. That's it. Tony Edwards Valley Bank. And the point is if you have that bank and you do not have people in your bank that are smart in crypto, okay, you don't know anything. You've been doing banking stuff. Like, yeah, you've heard of it, you know it's a thing, but your business is not geared to that, right? And then all of a sudden, let's say that a new crypto bank were to pop up next door to you. Like right now, you would have the handle on them, but it doesn't mean that if crypto comes into your bank, let's say the crypto system integrates with your bank, that doesn't mean that it's going to be beneficial for your bank, because your bank may be in an area that's a lot of older people, right? Mm-hmm. And the point is that when you have different areas kind of combining, you can lose power, okay? And there are bankers out there who, even though crypto is good in a lot of ways for a lot of different areas in their industry, it's going to be bad for them, okay? It's not it's not Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is fine, right? It's not JP Morgan, they're fine. It's not Bank of America. It's the medium banks, right? It's these ones that have to worry now significantly going forward. And I think you actually had already seen some of this with banks like BB&T and SunTrust merging to form Truist. When you saw those types of things happen, those were actually signs, I believe, that we were going into a changing world when you had a lot of this, because banks weren't collapsing at that point. That was almost a preeminent move. That was back in, I believe it was 2020. So anyways, my whole point is this. There are rogue groups out there. There are basically kind of like two overarching kind of ideas to the world, right? You got capitalism and you have socialism. I mean, that's really kind of what things break down into. And there's people from all walks of life that fall into either category. And I think that when it comes to certain things happening, there are just people that don't want to see change. They don't want to see people succeed. They only want things for themselves. And so it doesn't matter if it's good for the world. If it's not good for them, they're going to fight to prevent it. That's why things are like Donald Trump assassinations or JFK assassinations. Things like that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you had mentioned just a bit ago about Ripple, and of course, yesterday we got the big news of this case finally wrapping up. And I mean, after painstaking years of dealing with this nonsense, and the SEC walks away with 125 million, but Ripple and XRP walks away with the lion's share of the victory here. I want to get your thoughts on what you think this means for XRP in this bull market.
Yeah, the lion's share, the old lion's share. Yeah, they definitely got that. Now, the thing is I've said for years, This was staged, guys. This was never real. I don't believe this was ever a real thing. I've been told, and I now believe this 100%. I believe it 100% that 75% of everything you see is fake. And it doesn't mean that if you watch 100 court cases, that 75 of those are fake and 25 are fake. It means pretty much 75% of anything you see anywhere is fake. So 75% of someone's testimony is their perspective in the way that they saw things. That's a good example, right? Have you ever had a situation where you and someone else were good friends, but you just saw something completely differently, right? And that's kind of how things work. And with the SEC and the Ripple lawsuit, this was always designed to make XRP, basically the first regulated cryptocurrency, and to allow it to get into the banking system, because Bitcoin is not actually regulated in a sense. There are some rules around some things, but like Bitcoin mining has virtually no regulation, right? Bitcoin trading doesn't, it kind of is different than the regular stock trading, should have its own rules. They haven't touched any of those things yet. Ethereum, right, they said it's not a security, but we all know that was really, I guess you could say that, yeah, in a sense, Gary Gensler doing a 180, a lot of 180s these days on Ethereum, and saying, well, they're not going to investigate a security anymore. I guess that does make it official. It is now not a security as well. So you have Bitcoin, which is seen as a commodity. You have Ethereum that has been classified also now basically as a commodity. And you have XRP now that has now also been, as you know, is now a commodity. It is not a security. And this has been such a great setup for XRP, as Ripple was the number 2 or number 3 coin for most of its existence, until recently, when some other coins started kind of, rising on the scene. Solana and ADA to some extent at some points, not anymore. Yeah, ADA is dead. You guys run for the hills from ADA. I think I said this for a while, that XRP is not ADA. XRP, there was 0% chance ever that this was not going to go Ripple's way. It needed to be regulated for everything has to look normal. The people that are at the top that control things, they have to make things look normal all the time. They can't just say, hey, we want this new banker coin. Let's kick it off. No, what they do is they go through this process of making it look like it's gone through scrutiny and it's criticized, or look at these different things and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe. So this way, that when it gets past that point, now it's seen as legitimized. And you know as well as I do, Tony, how long have you been in crypto, Tony? You've been for a while, right? 2017?
2016, late 2016.
Oh, 2016. Oh, that's G right there. 2016 G. I'm lucky to have gotten in 2012. It was just, I really, the truth is, I wasn't really obsessed with crypto until probably after 2017 is when I got obsessed. Even though 2012 is when I got in, and I did some trading here and there, but I didn't realize really what I was doing. And the thing is you go back to those days of 2017, and you'll remember this fondly, of all of the memes of the XRP army towards the end of the bull market, of, all the Wojaks patting each other on the back saying it's not a security. And there was a huge portion of people who said that this was going to be declared a security and to stay away from it. And because of that, that is something that was always in the back of everybody's mind. There were class action lawsuits. There's just never been a decision or never been anything to indicate that something was going to happen there. And then it did. And after it did, it missed the bull run, right? Now, the question is, if the settlement had occurred in the fall of 2021, would we have gotten further action in the bull run? And absolutely. But unfortunately, it didn't happen, and the XRP investors were hurt over time, the XRP army as well. As you guys know, I am the lead master and commander of the XRP army. I gave it up for a few days as a joke. It was just a art of war trick I learned from Do Kwon. Sorry. So anyways, the point is that, the XRP investor has been kicked for years and years and years. And I always told everybody to hold on. I also told some people to sell at some point, because we needed to have some people sell, so that way the rest of us could finally get the price to go up, right? So, and you saw it from the XRP community over the last, year. You saw people wait, it's over and it's not going anywhere. Oh my gosh, people getting scared, people getting nervous. And that's why I always preach this message to people. XRP is not ADA. ADA has a chance to succeed. XRP has zero chance, or ADA has a chance to succeed. It also has a chance to fail. XRP does not have a chance to fail. It only wins. It's already woven in. Yes, Fed now uses XRP. Like, think about that. Think about that. So, and I think that in the future, all the banks, basically all the banks, are going to be moved to this system.
Do you have a price prediction, or I know that's a hard question, but maybe a range for this bull market?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it really just depends. I've been a big believer in a April Fool's Day into this bull market next year. I think there are. I love the day April Fool's Day. I think it's a great day for some tomfoolery, people to get faked out about something, somebody to act like, hey, here's this massive story about this massive ban of something, and people see it and start spreading it. Kind of what happened in 2017 when they removed the Korean volume off of CoinMarketCap. That was the top of the market. People woke up and it was $100 billion lower. We had never seen $1 trillion. It was at 900 and they woke up and it was 800. People were like, what the f-? And everybody went and they sold. And they said, oh, we just didn't think to tone it. Come on, let's be for real on this. And so the point is that I think April Fool's Day is an interesting day for something like that, but I certainly also do not believe for sure it's going to happen on that. I believe sometime during Q2 is when the bull run will end. So starts on April 1st, goes to the end of June, and I think that's a good range. However, I will say this: the longer that this bull run has stalled to continue after the halving, it has made me question that a little bit. However, I also, the price of Bitcoin is not going to go over $150,000. It could potentially, maybe spike to 170 or 180 or who knows. But the range, 140 is the target. $140,000 is the target. And, when you look at where Bitcoin fell to, now all of a sudden that target is what? That's a 3X. That's a 3X from the bottom now. So a lot of people would be quite happy. And who would be quite happy with that? The institutions and the people with big money that are buying it during these times, during these dips. You see the whale accumulation and people are just, I don't know if the bull run's coming back. 0% chance the bull run is not coming back. And I think when you look at a price range for XRP, when you're looking at a Bitcoin that's going to go potentially to $150,000, and I think the market cap is going to get somewhere upwards of, I was thinking probably 10. I think it's going to probably get closer to 6. I think we're going to see it doubling. I think certainly XRP, where it is right now, I'm in a leverage trade, so I know where it is. It's between 60 and 62 cents, unless that's changed here in the last few minutes. And I think that certainly, I was saying, my original price prediction was $18, and with $18 to $25, and the highest possible price you could get to would be $50, and that would be the perfect scenario. You get the IPO, and you get the ETF. You get an XRP ETF, which they're talking about. And now you get, if you were to get an IPO on top of that, who knows how high the price can go. But that money's got to come from somewhere. Money's got to come from somewhere. And so that means it's going to be coming from money that will be going into other coins. So what are the coins that are going to get hurt? Obviously, ADA. XRP and ADA have had a long history. They don't like each other. And I was for both communities, and I still do love the ADA community. I feel bad for them. I do. I really feel bad for the ADA community because a lot of them are they're sunken cost fallacy. I've got too much into this now. I can't get out into something that's going to go up better and faster, basically. So that's where that is. I think if I want to give what I believe a realistic price target is for XRP, that I think is definitely achievable, I'd say $8 to $10. I think that's definitely achievable. I think that's almost a slam dunk. And then from there, where it gets above $8 to $10, that's going, look, it could, maybe 6 is as high as it goes. Maybe it's 6. It almost doubles the last all-time high, maybe. I think 7 is a good number. That would be twice the previous all-time high, approximately. So I think in that range, the $8 to $10 range, it's pretty safe to say it could get up there. I think that all the levels after that, if you were to say $18 to $25 range, how could it get there? That would be with the IPO. And then how could it get to $52, that crazy number? That would be if on top of that next comes an ETF, and all that happens before the end of this bull run. And so I'm just kind of skeptical about all that happening. And I'd like to set people up with what I believe is to be realistic. And I think that $8 to $10 is very realistic.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I feel like it has the clear runway and the pathway now. There's no longer this dark cloud of the litigation hanging over. So I think the sky's the limit a bit, because it's what really surprised me, Ben, that coin stayed in the top 10 despite getting delisted and having the lawsuit. A lot of people thought it was going to drop out at top 20 or something,
Yeah, definitely. And I think looking back, there's a lot of reason to think that, if you didn't know what I know. If you don't know what some of the people in the XRP army know. And I don't know if most of the people in the XRP army know it just because they happen to know the information, or they just in their heart they believe it so much. So but if XRP is going, it's regulated now, the runway is clear, things are good, and I think now finally it's smooth sailing for XRP and the whole community.
So I got to ask you about Hit Network, man. We get reports that CFTC is going after Hit Network, which was the company you used to work with and all that. What the hell is going on there? And what do you think might be the outcome?
What I will say is this is going to be one of the most significant things that ever happened in the history of crypto. And it's going to go beyond areas outside of crypto. I can't say much more than that about what's happening overall. But what I can tell you about the subpoena to the CFTC, which I've never seen. I've never seen the subpoena. I still haven't seen it. So you have to understand that sometimes there are people out there that think they're on top, and they think that they're alphas and they're winners. People like me. And then you come to find out later on that maybe you weren't as great as you thought, because maybe there were some people that were assisting you to do some things you didn't realize they were helping. And let's say there's another person who is very similar, very, very cocky, thinks they have everything under control. Sometimes those people have a tendency to make people above them very angry by saying things like, they know who this person is, and things like that. And some people who are watching this will understand that, and some will not. But the point is that with the subpoena, you have to understand what came first. No, actually, the subpoena was sent on July 16th, so it was sent first. I did not know about it until I was alerted by Tim Copeland of Decrypt about it and asking me for a comment. I didn't know that they had received it. So they received that on the 16th. And then on the 23rd of July, TJ Shed received a subpoena, or a note from the IRS saying that his company, his personal holding company that he owns 100% of, is being audited by the IRS. It's very interesting. A lot of people know what I've accused Hit Network of being: a criminal syndicate, a money laundering organization. And I think there are going to end up being connections to drug dealing and human trafficking. I know that sounds insane, but I believe that is what some people are going to come to find out. I think that's what this is connected to. And, it's interesting. I came up with the name Hit Network. I thought of my cousin, Brody Smithwick, Brody James Smithwick. He was the one who, I remember he told me about a company, and that's where I got the name from, Hit Network. I named it, but I didn't realize, I think maybe I was coached into naming it a bit. You have to understand the business architecture of the companies. You had two holding companies. One was Better Than TJ LLC, which is of course mine. And then you had TJSJ, which was TJ's, okay? And the thing is that the way that these were set up, all the companies underneath, except for the real estate that he forged and kind of got me out of later, except for the real estate, or tried to get me out of, all of the companies were owned by one larger entity, which is called BJ Investments. BJ, that's weird, British James, anything like that. But BJ Investment. And the thing is that it was set up to have many companies underneath it, okay? And this is very important. BitBoy Crypto was under the name or under the company that I created, an LLC, eventually merged into the company, called High Throughput Productions, or HTP. Because everybody knows, I said I was the hardest working channel in crypto, and I put out more content, more high quality content than anybody, and I have for a long time. High throughput, it was like, we're doing this. So anything that's connected to BitBoy Crypto would be done through High Throughput Productions. And it's very interesting when you look at the way that these subpoenas and audits were sent out. It was sent out, the IRS audit, to TJ's personal company. It doesn't have anything to do with my company. Doesn't have anything to do with the companies, the other companies that we had. It only has to do with his own personal holding company. Isn't that interesting? And then you look at the CFTC audit, and of course they try to do. They were trying to do their spin on things, and we're like, oh, and so, his name is. My name's not in the subpoena. My name is not in the subpoena. And you have to understand that Hit Network is under the LLC Hit Network, which is under BJ Investments. So you have BJ Investments here. You have, let's say, Hit Network here, and you had High Throughput Productions here. Okay, these are separate. So why would they send a subpoena to Hit Network? And you see, Bitcoin is one of the coins that's included in this. And of course, this is their banner. But what people are going to find is they owned all the wallets that were dumping. And they tried to make it look like to my own employees that I was out there selling millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And all of that is going to come out. And they know that it's a ticking time bomb. It's coming very fast. This, in the next 2 weeks, I believe maximum, this is all going to break. If it doesn't break today or tomorrow, it could break any moment. And people are going to see that I was literally removed by people. They didn't need me. They were running pump and dump schemes. They were doing phishing attacks. They were hacking people. Justin Williams was, in his group. And I don't know if DJ and his dad were too. His dad also was involved in all this. And we have all the addresses. And I think that there's this, narrative, because my name is in the article that was written about it, that somehow, because Bitcoin's involved, it links back to me. No. Mr. X told me specifically to hold on to Bitcoin. I thought earlier this year, I thought about selling it, not to make money, to get out of it, because there's too much pressure. It's too much pressure. And Mr. X has constantly pushed me not to get rid of it. And now I know why. This is one of the reasons, is because it's going to come out. But the only reason it failed, or it was failing, was because of the massive supply that they were holding and they were dumping. And it's also going to come out to ETH is involved in all this. There's a reason there's all these Colorado connections. There's a lot of Colorado connections to Colorado, Arizona connections to this stuff. Philadelphia, there's a lot of connections there, a lot of connections in New York, and people are going to see all this, play out. And I think that I'm on a forced vacation right now. I'm not, I'm making a little bit of content because of the XRP stuff yesterday, but I'm in a place where I'm very safe and I'm protected. And I think, and I'm only doing this interview with you, Tony, because I asked you and I told you I thought about canceling, but I appreciate you, and I wanted to come on and talk a little bit about this, maybe in order to set some things straight for some people. Is that what has happened with Hit Network is going to be, I'm not going to call it the most significant event in the history of crypto, because of course, Silk Road, Ross Ulbricht, Mt. Gox, those are more significant. This is going to go down as one of the most significant, because people are going to start to understand that my circle, there was a reason why there was a lot of weird things happening around me specifically, because the center of this investigation, I believe, is going to turn out to be someone very, 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 very close to me. Someone that I would have never expected this from, and this person's going to end up being the center of this investigation. People are going to find this. I would just tell you, on Chainalysis, we've done Chainalysis. I will tell you that the chain analysis that we have done, along with our assistance from our cop from Minnesota, Jake, who's been helping us, is that some of these addresses that are connected to Hit Network, I'm not going to say they are Hit Network, they're connected to Hit Network, such as child porn. That is one thing I will say.
Oof.
We know that factually. That's 100% correct. No questions about it. And we also know that there's an address that connects back to the parity hack. There's an address that connects to so much of the big stolen money between July and August, mostly July, almost all during July of 2017. And people can go back and look. There were several hacks. There was a hack, the parity hack obviously was in 2017. And then you had another one. It wasn't StormX. It was something, Buzz, B, something. I can't remember what it was, but there was one, I think it was, I cannot remember, a WASP. I think it was a B name. There was some kind of platform that was hacked into. And people can go follow. When you follow money, a lot of people don't understand what you can discover. The blockchain is the coolest thing that's ever existed. When you actually understand that you cannot hide money, Monero, okay, you can hide Monero, but still at some place, you have to upload fiat to buy it somewhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's, 94 trades down the road or whatever, and then eventually when you cash out, people are going to see that you cashed out from trading Monero, right? So even when using privacy coins and the chain analysis, I've gotten really good at chain analysis. Cassie's even better than me, and Jake, of course, is better than both of us. He's been teaching us, but chain analysis is just so fascinating because what you see is you see people's past sins. You see people's sins that were done many, many, many years ago that they thought would never be uncovered. But as blockchain analysis and chain analysis has gotten stronger and stronger and stronger over time, actually, some of those things are even able to be uncovered. And so finding out who did the parity hack and who did some of these other hacks it's possible now. And I can tell you one of them's caught for sure. So.
Ben, do you think this news that's going to come out, is it market moving or is it just kind of a black stain, these guys were doing this type of stuff, but would it affect prices, you think?
That's a great question. I think it already has. I think it already has, and people haven't realized it. Because there is a large amount of money. Have you ever heard of Ren dark pool?
No.
So Ren, a lot of people have no idea what Ren even is. It's a coin. A lot of people have heard of it. And then back in 2020, 2021, it was getting pretty big. And it's got this weird kind of like fancy hashtag logo. It's not a hashtag. It's many more lines going through. And it looks kind of cool. And, the thing about it is people don't realize institutions use Ren. How do they use it? Well, you create this thing called a Ren dark pool. And I'm not going to explain the mechanics of exactly how it works. But what happens is that you create the Ren that is in a pool that you put other coins into. And I believe you can trade it into anything, if I remember correctly. But the pool, it gets covered by a cloud of Ren. And you can't see inside of it. You can't see what is being traded. And it's the only actual true decentralized trading, other than peer-to-peer, I guess, that exists. It's private. You're able to hide what you're doing. And I believe, I'm not positive, but I believe you can even do it on exchanges that have massive amounts of Ren in whatever wallet you're trading in. I think. I don't know well enough, but a lot of people don't know that institutions actually use this to hide what they do. Institutions have been using Ren to cover up some things. And so when you look at a lot of this money that has been traded, that is being tracked, a lot of it has already been sold or has already been traced. And now people are, at this point, anyone who's connected to this, which is a massive amount of people, anyone connected to this that moves anything on the blockchain right now, they're putting themselves in jeopardy big time. And I think they know that. It would be much better to not touch any of this crypto that might be trace back to these rent dark pools and things. So, obviously institutions use them, but people can use them too. I talked to a guy, Samurai. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I remember when I was in the Bahamas and I did my space with FTX when I was there at the Albany. That was Samurai. It was his room he had set up that I was in there doing that with, and he was the first person who I ever remembered mentioning these Ren dark pools. And so when we came across a wallet that had a ton of transactions in it, we thought immediately it was an exchange wallet. It may be an exchange wallet. But I went back to the first transaction, which was 101,000 pages, 101,000 pages of 100 transactions on ETH4. I went back to the beginning. It was created with ETH because you have to have ETH to create. I think it is a ERC20, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But ETH was the first input into this address. And then it was Ren. And only Ren was put in for the first, I think, 6 or 7 pages. So that's 700 transactions or so, or 600 to 700. And then after that, it's all ETH. And it's very interesting the way that I believe what it does, it breaks it down into much smaller amounts and mixes those together in a way that's not considered to be money laundering, like a mixer, Tornado Cash or Railgun. Those are all connected too, but that's another story. A Disperse app, that's another one. Disperse app is one that imports money from Tornado Cash. So if you ever see Disperse app on Chainalysis, on like Arkham, it's connected pretty much to Tornado Cash. So, there's a lot of these things that are connected, and they do similar things. But I think the Ren dark pools are actually not an illegal way to do it. So, that's very interesting. But I think that a lot of this. Your question was, do I believe this is going to impact the markets? I think it may impact the markets in a positive way, I think, in a roundabout way. The first day stuff starts to break, I'm not sure what's going to happen. But I do believe that overall, this is going to be one of the greatest things that ever happened in cryptocurrency, because we are going to be removing so many bad actors. And then also, why was Jeffrey Epstein in the CFO? Why was Jeffrey Epstein in one of the most powerful councils in the entire world? And when you look back at all the things that he did, and you start to realize that there was a list of people who visited the island. Now, Tony, I want to ask you a question. Do you believe that every person who ever visited that island did horrible things?
It's hard to answer. I would say maybe it's 50-50 because it sounds like some people are tagging alongs for this and that, but who knows, No,
I think you're right. I think it is about 50-50. But here's the thing, Tony. Let me give you 2 people that were on the island. Chris Tucker, Oprah Winfrey. And, okay, so one of them's got to be bad, one's got to be good, right? Like one's got to be bad, one's good. Statistically here, right? But here's the question, Tony, which let's say it's correct. Let's say they both did go, and let's say one of them was involved in bad things and one of them wasn't. Which one was involved in the bad things?
Given the demographics of what was happening here, maybe Chris Tucker.
Maybe. What did you hear about the stuff in Hawaii with Oprah? Maybe in some burning forest. You know any of that stuff?
No, I haven't heard about that.
Well, I don't know that this to be true, but with that big fire in Hawaii that burned down so many houses and all that stuff, there were rumors that actually traced back to Oprah Winfrey wanting to buy that property. So what I would say is there are questions about both of those people. And the thing is, that's the point, Tony. There's no way to determine which one is good and which one is bad, which means that the person that's not bad, now just by virtue of visiting the island, not realizing what was going on, they could also be under blackmail, because before the list came out and people knew who was there, these people had evidence of these people on the island. So it's a way to blackmail multiple. Now, I don't know if this has anything to do with why he's on the CFR. I'm just talking about what happened. I don't know. That's a question I always ask people. Why was he on the CFR? Yeah, nobody can answer that question. I don't know why. But on a side note, as I'm saying here about this, anyone who visits that island is under question. And that is a means of manipulation and control and blackmail and extortion. And these are the tools that these people use. And then not only that, but they tend to make their victims feel like the guilty parties. So, what would people think if they knew you were there, Oprah? Oh, I know you didn't know. I know you didn't know, but man, think about all the bad things that happened there. You were there. You see, that is 100% how these people operate. So, and my battery's on 2%, Tony. I'm just letting you know.
Okay. So last question here before I let you go.
Yep.
Are you fighting anybody's again? Any fights coming up?
Yes, what I will say is yes, I am going to do one more fight. I am going to do a karate fight. I'm actually going to be commentating at the next off the chain boxing event in Token 2049 Singapore in September. But I'll be commentating for that. I think there might be a karate combat event there, but they're not doing IFC. And then I believe I'm still dealing with a shoulder injury. It's almost better. I'm starting rehab on it next week. I am going to fight again, and I am going to fight karate. And this is what I say: Hit Network, choose your champion, because I'm going to beat the fuck out of it.
Well, I'm looking forward to those announcements. And everyone, check out Ben's book. Link will be in the description. Ben, good to see you, man. Stay well, and I appreciate you.
All right, thanks, Tony. Have a good day.